Welcome back to my series on how to write LGBT characters and why you should anyway. Today we're going to be answering the second part of that question. Why should you write LGBT characters, even if you're not LGBT yourself? Reason number one is realism. LGBT people exist in all walks of life and have done for all of history. Yes, I know that most of the literature and historical record of us has been from fairly recent history, but it doesn't change the fact that we have existed for as long as humanity has, as long as the animal kingdom has. LGBT people are a natural thing, and just because we haven't always used the same words or been recorded in the same way doesn't mean that we haven't always existed. The way that gender identity, particularly, is different across cultures and across various points in history just shows even further why terms need to change and why there isn't a lot of solid record of LGBT people in history. Whether you're writing a contemporary piece, a historical piece, a sci-fi piece, or a fantasy piece, or whatever else you could be writing, the exclusion of LGBT people also takes away a lot of your foundation of realism. Reason number two is diversity is a good thing. People have a lot of advice and opinions on the reasons for diversity and whether you're just including it for whether you are including it for the right reason. Ultimately, the right reason can be as simple as I wanted to try, or I felt like it, or the whole cast can't be exactly like me, so... Having diverse characters allows you to build on tension and conflict because characters with different backgrounds and values will have different opinions. I, as a non-binary person, have very little attachment to gender, and I struggle to understand why people are so attached to their gender. I respect it because whatever, it doesn't bother me, but I don't really understand it on a fundamental level. But I do know people, and I do have friends who are very attached to their gender and the expectation for their gender. And it can cause conflict because we're coming from these very different perspectives. But because we're friends, we either agree to disagree or we just put it aside. I, as someone in a queer marriage, has a very different opinion and expectation of what is to come from my marriage and how my marriage should be than most of the straight and cis people that I know. Some of that is personality, and some of it is the way that gender and gender expectation plays out in a marriage. It means when colleagues make jokes about their wives being a ball and chain, or about how great it is when their spouse goes on holiday, I'm kind of confused because my wife isn't holding me back, and honestly I want to spend as much time with her as possible because, well, I love her and she's my best friend. Reason number three is it increases your audience. If you put LGBT characters, particularly explicitly stated LGBT characters, within the narrative, particularly well-written LGBT characters in the narrative, you will gain a lot of LGBT readers or viewers or whatever else you could have. We are so starved for representation that we will usually go and read a book or watch a film or TV show or whatever it is that has LGBT people in it just because it has LGBT people in it. Especially if we know that it's got explicitly stated or well-written LGBT people in it. Even if we don't normally watch or like that kind of thing. I have read a surprising amount of contemporary books with LGBT characters in it, entirely because they have LGBT characters in them. I don't really like reading contemporary stuff. I know I write some on nopoodles.wordpress.com, but grand scheme, fantasy and sci-fi are my jam. I love fantasy and sci-fi, so most of the films and TV shows that I watch and most of the books that I read are fantasy ones, or fairy tale ones, or sci-fi ones. But because these things have had LGBT people, and especially when they've had characters who aren't just gay in them, like, I have nothing wrong with adding gay characters, do that, obviously, but when they've not just had a gay character in them, when they've had a bisexual character, or a trans character, or, oh, imagine the world where I got to watch a TV show with a non-binary bisexual protagonist. Not even protagonist, let's be honest, just a non-binary character would be great. Especially a non-binary character that's played by a non-binary actor. Oh, imagine it. Picture it. It's glorious. Anyway, so I hope you found this video helpful. It is the second in a series on how to write LGBT characters and why you should anyway. If you want to check out the others in the series, there will be a playlist, hopefully on the end screen or linked in the description box below. I should do that. And I will be coming out with the next one next Friday, which is my top 8 tips for writing LGBT characters. That's not the same as how to get started writing LGBT characters, which is more of a pep talk. These are top 8 tips of things to and not to include. If you'd like to stay up to date with my life, my work and my bunnies, you can follow me on social media. I am at nopoodles on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. And if you'd like to support what I do, there is a link to my Ko-fi account in the description below. I will see you next week. I think the only benefit to my wife being away is that each of us gets to watch the TV shows that the other one doesn't want to watch. And honestly, most of the time one of us just kind of accepts that the other one is going to watch that TV show and does something else with our time.